Mercedes-Benz sold over 2 million cars globally in the year 2022. The luxury car maker registered its highest growth in India, selling over 15,800 cars. To talk about the company's global plans, the importance of India as a market for Mercedes-Benz is the company's global CEO, Ola Källenius. Ola, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. The last time the Mercedes-Benz global CEO was here in India was in 2018. Give us a sense of what brings you to India this time around.
It's great to be back. I'm here to meet, obviously, our team. India is the second biggest technology and engineering hub for Mercedes. We have more than 5,000 engineers in Bangalore working on the future innovations for Mercedes everywhere in the world. A large part of our IT team, and of course our sales and operations team here as well, but also to talk to our dealers, to talk to customers, to talk to policymakers and other decision makers in this, for us, extremely important country, an important market. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with the progress that we have made here as a company since my last visit about 5 years ago.
Right. You must be really encouraged with the kind of growth, the sales volumes that India registered for Mercedes-Benz, close to 16,000 cars in the last calendar year. Give us a sense of how the India market will be driving growth and volumes for the company going forward.
India as an economy is on a trajectory going up, there's no doubt about that. With the GDP growth and thereby wealth growth, more people coming into the buy-in segment, which is relevant for the luxury cars that Mercedes produces and sells. Yes, indeed, the team here did a fantastic job in 2022. I think actually India was our fastest growing market in 2022. And we also introduced new business models. One of the first car makers to switch over to direct sales in our sales and marketing organization. We installed a first high-power charging network for the customers that are venturing into our electric cars. This is the first market after Germany to actually produce our electric flagship, the EQS. So there's a lot of momentum here. And I believe that that momentum can continue, so we will continue investing in India.
Right. If I were to ask you about some of the hurdles, some of the barriers to growth in India, what would those be?
So I look at India for us not just as a market, it's a source of innovation. So if I start on the engineering side and just meeting with the engineering team in Bangalore yesterday, I was literally blown away by the progress that they have made technologically in the last 5 years. So some of the most innovative things that we're working on, whether it's on the digital side, electrification of the vehicles, or also classic mechanical engineering, which will be important. Just looking at some of the technologies that are coming out of this team, that makes me hugely optimistic that we can grow in India as an innovation and technology hub, totally network with our global engineering organization, of course, with the home base in Germany. So there's tremendous growth there. On the market side, we have set ourselves up operationally. We have our factory in Pune to be able to build actually more than twice the volume that we sold in 2022. So we have the building blocks now. Will the market just be a linear going up, and what will be the gradient of that trajectory going upwards? It's a little bit of a crystal ball, but I know this, 5 years from now, it will be significantly higher than it is today.
Right. Also, Mercedes-Benz has announced that it wants to go all electric by 2030, wherever the market conditions allow this to happen. Give us a sense of how this is changing the way the luxury car maker operates and works.
So the journey is towards zero emission. We are decarbonizing our complete business system from A to Z, supply chain, our own operations, the product, and the product in use. And in fact, we have decided a brand like Mercedes-Benz needs to stand for a promise of a better future. It's a blend of technology, innovation, and luxury. So yes, we are doubling down on electrification, allocating our capital, allocating our engineering resources towards this. At the same time, we have to understand that the auto industry, that this, let's say, technology shift is something that goes on for a long period of time. So in our case, it's a 10-year plus journey, but we're in the good position that our electrified high-tech combustion portfolio is literally brand new. And we're now developing that for the latest and most stringent emission standards that are coming up. So we have all worlds at the moment, even though the journey is electric. So to make that happen, it's both an engineering task, and we're progressing fast, but it's also a very large industrial task, all the way to where are the raw materials going to come from to make this shift towards electric happen.
I also wanted to ask you, when it comes to capital investments, you said software is going to be a very big focus. Mercedes is developing its own operating system. How much are you investing in software compared to other aspects of your business right now?
So in the transformation of our company in the auto industry, driven by electrification and the move into more digital offerings for our customers in the product, we're talking on many, many billions of euros of investment in these areas in the next year. So the bulk of the money we are putting into our new technologies. And Mercedes-Benz as such is one of the OEMs that has the broadest and deepest technology portfolio of all OEMs. So we are at the, I would say, at the forefront of the auto industry in terms of the investment size into these new technologies.
Right. There's a lot of debate in India as well on different kinds of battery technologies: lithium-ion, aluminium-ion, zinc-ion, hydrogen ICE, hydrogen fuel cell. Do you see lithium-ion prices coming down, battery prices coming down, or do you feel that we will need a disruption, we will need a breakthrough in battery technology if the prices of electric cars, batteries, need to significantly come down?
One of the key questions is what's going to happen to the raw materials, to lithium, to nickel, and so on and so forth. So while we're answering the chemistry question, which you're asking, at the same time we need to work with the supply chain all the way down to the mine to answer the industrial question. How can we scale up mining, refining for lithium and for other raw materials that we need for this? And at the same time then see how do we improve energy density? How do we enhance fast charging, shorten the time to go from, I don't know, 10% state of charge to 80% state of charge. We're working on all of those. And if we look at what we have achieved already now in the first couple of generations, it's impressive, you know, how steep that development curve is. And already in the next gen that is in development now and comes into the market in the next 2 to 3 years is yet another step up. So where a lot of capital meets intelligence, usually you get a dynamic innovation environment, and that's what we're seeing in the battery space at the moment.
Right. I'd also like to ask you how much of your innovation is happening from India when it comes to Mercedes-Benz evolving as a company for the future, for future mobility needs. How important is India in driving that transition for you?
As I mentioned, India is the second largest technology and engineering hub for Mercedes worldwide, and is already at half the size of our total engineering team in Germany. So in all fields, whether it is the software and digital field, electrical field, or also more classical mechanical technologies that are also evolving, our team here in India, in Bangalore, is involved in all of those. So there's a piece of India in every Mercedes that we sell around the world. And I think there's potential to do even more with our team here in India.
Any plans to export from India, and what's holding you back? You've got key export markets in Germany, US and China. What's holding you back from exporting from India?
If we look at how our production network has developed over the last decades, it's been pretty clear logic that you try to go as much as you can to where the customer is. We have grown our production network where we have grown our market presence. But if you're a premium luxury manufacturer, it doesn't make economic sense to atomize every single model that you make and produce it in 2 or 3 or 4 different countries. So you got to reach a certain critical mass. Once you reach that critical mass for a model, you can decide to turn one of your markets into a production and also export hub, which we do, of course, traditionally in Germany, where we come from, but in the United States and from other places as well. Structurally, there is no reason why that couldn't be done out of India sometime in the future. One factor that will decide that, because it's about economics, is also what do the free trade agreements look like between the different markets, your target export markets. Can we reduce barriers for trade, import and export, in both directions? Those are things that where maybe policymakers can also look to, let's say, act as a catalyst to make that happen sooner. But it's also correlated, obviously, to the market size of that potential export hub
so
as well.
The EU-India FTA, if it happens, do you think it could change the way you look at India as a manufacturing destination and maybe as an export destination as well?
Perhaps, and let's hope that policymakers are ambitious when trying to create win-win situations and make sure that we can all bake a bigger cake together.
All right. Ola Källenius, thank you so much for speaking to CNBC-TV18.
Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Australia-India Business Council has hailed the Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement as a watershed moment in India-Australia bilateral ties. This is the first step towards a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement in 2023. The ECTA benefits several labor-intensive Indian sectors. Exporters in India now enjoy zero duty on 96% of India's exports to Australia. The remaining 1.7% of tariff lines are to be made zero duty over a 5-year period. With us right now is Jodi McKay, the National Chair of the Australia-India Business Council, also a former cabinet minister and also a member of the Australian Parliament. She was also the first woman to wear a sari to the Australian Parliament. Thank you very much for joining us, Jodi. We believe that you're someone who works very closely with the Indian diaspora back in Australia.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of how this has been taken by the Indians, by the Indian diaspora, the Indian community back home in Australia, and how did they contribute to this FTA?
Yeah, well, they're obviously very excited about it and they're energised, and I think they now see the importance of their role in this agreement as well. If you look at our diaspora, we have about 1 million Indian Australians, and that's a population of 25 million, so they wield significant power electorally as well. But all of them want this agreement to work, and while they perhaps weren't involved in the lobbying for it, I would strongly suspect that on this side, particularly in the decisions that Prime Minister Modi made, the size of our diaspora, the power of our diaspora certainly played a part in this agreement.
How do you see the trade, especially in the first year since this deal comes into effect? How could the trade between the two countries rise in this calendar year?
Yeah, so the agreement specifies an increase to about $45 billion over the next 5 years. So the trade is currently at $27 billion. But I think, you know, Piyush Goyal wanted it to achieve by 2030 $100 billion. So that's quite ambitious. The question is how that plays out. Now, the framework is there. There's still some negotiation going on now on the CETA agreement, which is the second stage of the free trade agreement. But I think that while the framework is there, it really does require business to now step up and realise the opportunities, which is one of the reasons why we're here in India. We're talking about the free trade agreement, we're talking about the sectors that benefit, and we're talking about the opportunities now between both countries. What we're seeing is enthusiasm and an awareness on the India side. I think we still have some way to go on the Australia side, and that's a job that we have to do, but also a job that the Australian government has to do as well.
Right. I would also like to ask you, what is the level of awareness on both sides when it comes to the benefits arising out of the ECTA?
Yeah, I mean, I think on this side, as I said, I think that if you want to export or you are exporting, then you're aware because Australia has pretty much wiped all its tariffs. Well, it has. It's wiped. So our duties usually sit at about 45%. They're all gone now. On the India side, we're talking about 70% of tariffs, and India has protected about 30% of its tariffs. It's not necessarily all elimination. We're talking about a reduction, and we're also talking about quotas, tariff quotas. But I think the important thing in all this is that the opportunities now are across a range of sectors, and it's not just tariffs that we're talking about. We are actually talking about agreements under a strategic cooperation agreement that India and Australia have reached, and that includes sectors of mutual interest. It includes mutual recognition of qualifications. It includes how we increase the opportunity for Indian students in Australia. I think they're things that will happen immediately, but this is is, you know, Australia we have first mover advantage. You know, the UK and Canada, they're negotiating their agreements now. Australia has a year to make the most of this agreement, and our message is we must seize this, and in Australia businesses have to become aware of what this agreement actually means on this side. It's a little bit more complicated for Australian companies on this side, but I think when you look at all tariffs wiped, 98% right now, and then over the next 3 to 5 years, the remaining 3%, 2 to 3%.
Right. I would also like to speak to you about the growth in mobility, especially in IT services, as a result of this ECTA. What could be the increasing trend that we could see?
Well, I think that the IT sector in particular has been very forceful in the need for us to see mobility between India and Australia increase. So we're going to need between 300,000 and 1.2 million young IT workers in Australia to meet our needs over the next 10 years. The question is how we do that, and naturally we look to India for that to happen. Our immigration system at the moment is difficult. What our government is now doing is looking at how we can marry up our immigration visa system to meet the needs of the ECTA. Now, our concern is how long that will take, but it will require some legislative change. But I think there is a will, there's a knowledge that this has to be done. And the IT sector is huge. I see that as, you know, kind of one of the top 3 sectors of mutual interest in terms of sectors of importance. But the IT sector is important, and certainly as we've been travelling around India, that is the message we're getting. Every single state in India is focused on IT and critical technology. So we need to make sure that while it's not necessarily included as a tariff item, it is included as a sector of significance.
Right. And when it comes to export of goods from Australia to India, what has been the trend that you've seen? Has there been a significant growth in trade since the 29th of December?
Well, most of our trade, unfortunately, into India has been resources-based, primarily coal. So we bring into India about 70% of India's coal needs, mostly black coal. That's important for us because it's worth about $13 billion. The question is, what can we do beyond that? And that is now the discussion that's occurring. For instance, I just witnessed a memorandum of understanding which was signed between an Australian company and 2 Indian companies, and that's in regard to electric vehicles. So this is technology that Australia has, but they need the scale here in India. And I think whenever you're talking about startups or you're talking about companies and the opportunities, you have to think about the difference between the 2 countries. We in Australia are a nation of innovation, but we don't have India's scale. India has the scale to be able to make these, these innovations successful. So the opportunity in this agreement is significant, but we do need both sides aware. We are, can I just say, we're seeing a real will from the national government here. I would like to see more from the state governments.
You mentioned an important point that Australian businesses want a greater access for agricultural goods, considering the thriving agriculture industry back in Australia. Would that be your hope from the CECA talks now?
Yeah, look, it would. I would hope that, but I think that possibly many of the gains on agriculture have come under this. I think they've probably maybe pushed it as far as they can. So from the Australia side, for instance, India wants our wool and our sheep. Seafood. Seafood is a big one for India. So we've got lobsters straight away coming in here, but we've got other fresh and processed seafood. So I think that's probably, my sense is that there won't be anything further on agriculture. I could be wrong. But what this CECA agreement, which we're hoping will be finalised by mid-year, it'll focus on the services sector again. You know, this current agreement touched on some of that, but there is still a lot to be done. And I think it will kind of clean up some of the other areas that, have been touched on but haven't followed through on exactly what business needs.
If you can give us a sense of some of the areas that need to be cleaned up or addressing when it comes to the services trade, and what could the CECA do?
Look, I think on our side it's our visa system. You know, if you think about what we need to do on that side, it's on the visa side. So services, when I talk about services, you're talking about how we bring young people in to, to look at how we, meet the needs of our IT sector. If you talk about the pharmaceutical sector, we're going to fast-track some of those FDA-approved medicines coming into Australia. So I think that, there's a need for us to drill down into some of the manufacturing parts of this, I think. This deals with critical resources, but what are the, how is that actually used in some of the component manufacturing? Both countries have a Make in India, Make in Australia. How does that then play out between the two countries? So I think you're going to see government procurement. I think that's a big one that's going to be looked at. So there's a range of issues that they've set aside, but the conversations we're having are also about, well, this is what is on the table. What else would you like to see?
All right, Jodi McKay, thank you very much for joining us here with your view on the India-Australia ECTA and what the CEGA could have in store for businesses both in Australia and India. Thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you.
उत्तरवीर कमाल दिखा अपना कभी